In 2016, California wife and mother Sherry Papini disappeared for 22 days. When she was found, she told authorities a detailed account of being kidnapped and tortured. Years later, in a stunning twist, Papini pled guilty to making false statements about what happened to her, setting off a media firestorm. Now, for the first time, Sherry Papini is telling her side of the story and revealing shocking new information. Sherry Papini, Caught in a Lie, an ID documentary event, Monday, May 26th at 9 on ID. Set your DVR. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 88 of the True Crime All the Time podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, what is the word?
What's going on, my man? No, wait a minute. You can't play that. That don't sound right.
What do you mean I can't play that?
You're not my man. I was meant to say my man. That don't even sound right.
You just said my man.
I know it.
I'm leaving it in.
Yeah,
I don't care.
You probably are.
I am.
What episode is this?
88.
88, man. Infinity.
All right.
That's what I'm going with.
Is that what you're going with?
Wouldn't it be cool? We just never stop, man. We never stop. Never stop.
For the rest of time.
Never stop. It sounds like a beginning of a motivational speech. Never stop.
Who are you, Tony Robbins
Keep
now?
going. Always. Never stop. Infinity.
All right, Gibbs, we got some new Patreon supporters.
All right, let's do it.
We have Eric Toey.
Did you say toey?
Toey.
Like toe? Like, your toe?
No, like you tow a car.
Like you tow a car.
Mm-hmm.
So toey.
With an IE on the end of it.
Yeah. Gotcha. I'm good now.
All right.
Okay.
Jessica Hughes.
Hey, Jessica.
Angela Wahlberg.
That's Marky Mark, man. Sister.
Not spelled the same, but still could be. Aof Claffey.
Claffey?
That's the one that you're asking me about?
Claffey?
Yeah, Claffey is the part I know I got right.
Claffey.
No, Claffey's the part I got right.
Yeah.
The first name...
Aioli?
I didn't say aioli. There's an F in there.
Soft F.
It actually could be Aofi.
Aofi?
Maybe. I don't know.
Like a spice.
Kimberly Ginn jumped out at our highest level.
Thank you.
Jillian Miller. Jennifer Godfrey. Jason Scandrol.
Scandalous.
Jennifer Prodanovich.
Provanage.
Casey Barton.
Hey, Casey.
Kristen Cannon. Anna Marie Murray. Isn't there a singer named Anne Murray back in the day?
Back in the day, my mom loved her, man.
Beatty Tretville.
Betty Treadful.
Maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure on that one at all.
Yeah.
Jennifer Iatri.
Autry.
Jumped out at our highest level.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Nikki Powell.
Hey, Nikki.
Sophie Campbell. Ost Haldor Viorson.
Wilson.
Let's see how close on that one I got.
Yeah.
Jesse Warren Rigby.
You okay?
Ken Arnold.
Hey, Ken.
Monica Coy.
Monica.
Melissa Escott.
I like the Escott. Escate.
Old Lisa.
Just good old Lisa.
Yep. Just went ahead and put the old in front of it.
Save me a little time.
Save you some time, even though you went ahead and did it anyway. And then we had Donna Birch.
Good old Donna.
So if we go back into the vault, Gibbs. This week we selected Deb Predmore. Been with us a long time. We appreciate that. We appreciate all the new support, the people that continue to support us month after month.
We do. We really do.
And we had some support on PayPal as well. We had Larry Jones, Roya Dostafa.
Dostafa.
I think that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Danielle Sims.
Hey, Danielle.
Rhoda Brannigan.
Ooh, Rhoda.
And Autumn Pipes.
Autumn.
Yeah.
There's a name you don't hear. I like that name.
Cool names.
But she's got some pipes.
She probably does.
Yeah. Autumn Pipes.
Now, no TCAT Unsolved this week. We're taking a break from the Unsolved podcast.
We did. We went straight Patreon.
Yep. We did put out our first Patreon-only episode. It's on Ashton Sachs.
It is.
It's a good story.
It's a really good story. So if you're not a Patreon member yet, This is probably the best time to go ahead and join up.
Yep, I think it is.
Because you're going to find that you're going to really enjoy the story, some of the witty banner that we put out, and there's going to be future episodes.
Yep, we plan on doing more for sure. Now, have to give a huge shout out to one of our big fans, Gibbs, Vicky Faraci.
Thank you, Vicky.
She helped in the writing and research of this episode.
That's awesome.
So much appreciated. So let's get into the episode. You ready? I always ask if you're ready.
I'm ready.
I'm going to go forward either way.
I know you're not going to wait for me.
No,
so let's
but
go ahead. Just do it.
I feel like I'm being polite and asking you.
Yeah, you're not. You're just doing it because you're recording and people think you're polite.
Exactly.
They don't see the look and the stuff that you throw at me.
As I ask the question, I'm flipping double bird.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you're throwing rocks at me.
So we're talking about Westley Allan Dodd. This guy's one of the most evil killers in recent history.
Pretty evil.
He preyed on the young, the innocent, the vulnerable. And not to give away the ending, but he was the first man in Washington state to be hanged in 30 years.
Oh.
And that happened in 1993. We'll get to it. But
yeah, but to be hanged.
To be hanged. You don't think about... That's not that long ago, 1993.
It's like the Wild West.
Yeah, you don't think about people being hanged.
That's what I would have done back in the day if I was Rex West as a sheriff of a town.
You always just want to be Rex West.
Rex West, man.
Can't just be Mike Gibson.
No, Rex West, man.
Always into the role playing.
I'd have a little deeper voice. This is Rex West.
You're going to skip over my role playing thing?
Yeah.
So I said 30 years in Washington state, but, really 28 years in all of the United States up to that point in 1993. So Westley Allan Dodd was born in Toppenish, Washington, July 3rd, 1961, to Jim and Carol Dodd. He had two younger siblings. His father went by Jim, but his first name was also Wesley, drove a dairy truck, and his mother, Carolyn, stayed at home.
What do you think a dairy truck was back then? You think that's where they dropped off their milk at your front porch, or you think he drove like the collector thing, where they...
In 61, I wasn't born, but I'm assuming they were probably maybe still doing some dairy, like home deliveries maybe?
It goes on today. We actually work with we work with somebody. She gets dairy delivered to her house a couple times a week.
Is it one of the people that live out in the boonies?
That's somebody that I report to.
Really?
She gets 2 things of milk delivered to her every so many days. Yeah, she loves it.
Not like in the old days, though. It doesn't come in a wire basket in glass bottles.
But she has something out front that they put it in.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
She absolutely loves it. So today you can still get, it's organic. I'm sure
she's paying out the wazoo for
you'd have to, I would think. I mean, I've been to like Whole Foods or Dorsey Lane Market and seen that fresh squeezed organic grass-fed.
And that's you going to get it yourself.
That's me going to get it. And
that's no delivery
charge. 3 times the cost of regular milk.
Wow.
So I can't imagine what it costs delivered.
Now, Dodd would later say in interviews that he was never abused or neglected as a child, but he never heard the words, "I love you," from his family growing up.
There's a lot of people that I know that, especially with their dad, just was never somebody that said, "I loved you."
Well, and I think the further back in time we go, the more of that you saw from dads.
More tough love.
Yeah, I think today there's a lot more dads that are into the "I love yous."
Yeah.
But not only did he say he didn't hear the words, but he also said he never remembered ever saying them to anybody else.
Yeah.
As a child, you think that's kind of normal, right? You tell your mom and dad you love them, and
well, at least in my house, it was said a lot.
Yeah.
So, but I'm just saying, I'm not saying I had any issues at my house. I'm just saying, words are still words. I mean, you can say you love somebody. It always comes down to, do you show it?
Yeah. No, I get that. Now, Dodd's going to keep a diary in prison, and it's going to come up a lot. But in the diary, he wrote that he was emotionally and physically abused by his father, often neglected in favor of his younger siblings. So this is in direct contrast to what he said in interviews.
Yeah.
He would later tell psychologists that his mother repeatedly hit him with her fists. Now, this is something that his mom would vehemently deny.
Okay. That's rough, man, to be hit with a closed fist by your mom. I mean, I've seen some tough moms out there. They can probably level some people.
Well, there's no doubt, but what I'm getting at here is, what's the truth? What he wrote in his diaries?
Yeah. That just means he's a liar, because if you your only way you become inconsistent is if you made it up at some point. All right. I mean, it's the only way that you could be inconsistent, because if it was always the truth, you'd say. So what he wrote.
Well, one of them's got to be true.
One's
probably.
true, yeah.
You just don't know which one.
He doesn't remember because he lied about one of them. So he's always a liar. This guy's just a liar.
Now, that might be the least bad thing about it as we go on. He's going to be much worse.
Yeah, we know that for sure.
So his mom denied it. His younger sister would later say in court documents that none of the kids were ever beaten. They always had food. They had clothes. But it really wasn't a family. They would admit that. There wasn't a lot of love. Now, his younger brother, Gregory, described Westley as a nerd, his words. And the two of them, they're about 11 months apart, Gibbs. They bathed together up until the time Wesley was about 7. They slept together until Wesley was about 10. I don't think there's anything all that strange about that. I think a lot of siblings, sleep together, take baths together up to a certain point.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain age that you might want to stop that.
Now, there has been some question about sexual conduct with his brother, but Wesley has always denied that. But it's really around the age of 10 that we start to see some of the really scary signs from Westley Dodd. He tried to expose himself to a 6-year-old neighbor girl. She refused to look. And he would later say that this was one of the moments that he remembered from his childhood when he began preferring boys over girls. He was picked on in school. He was small for his age. And I think the kids noticed that he had more interest in boys than girls. So that played a part in some of the teasing, some of the bullying that he received. So I mentioned the one incident at 10, but then you get to age 13, 14, and this is where he really ramps up. He starts exposing himself to children around his neighborhood, children from his school. Now, I think a lot of stuff happened between this time frame, so before the age of 13. There's not a lot of information out there. Now, in his diary, he writes that at age 8, he tried to lure a boy into an empty building with the intention of molesting him. So again, this is going to be one of those where it's hard to know what's true in every instance. But he did write this in his diary, and you can probably make the leap that he did some pretty bad things that were maybe undocumented before the age of 10 and 13, when some of the things are known to be true. But he was caught around the age of 13, exposing himself to other kids, but he didn't really suffer any consequences. And this is something that's going to reoccur. It's going to happen frequently. And these are the ones, Gibbs, I know that drive you crazy. When you're going to see this pattern of behavior, and you're going to find out that people knew about it and really not much at all was done. So he's exposing himself. And he's getting some type of thrill out of this behavior, but eventually he's not getting the same type of thrill, right? We've talked about that. You continue to do something time after time, whether it's smoking, drugs, whatever type of behavior it is, eventually you don't get the same type of feeling that you did in the beginning. And he changes up. He starts molesting, in his words, to get back that excitement. I mean, this would include his sister's 10-year-old friend, 2 of his cousins. He snuck into his sister's room while she was sleeping, pulled down her pants, but she woke up and pushed him away before he could do anything more. But she never told her parents about what happened. And some of the facts, Gibbs, that would come out about him in his younger years, apparently he would let his dog lick him.
Lick his ass.
Yeah. I was going to say in various places, but I like where you went with it.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the places.
Yeah.
And he said he enjoyed it. And that's why he did it.
Well.
But that wasn't it.
That gets worse.
It does get worse. He would rub, feces on his penis.
Right there that's gross.
That is gross.
But he did it because he wanted his dog to come up and lick it off of his penis.
Right.
I've
never heard of that in my entire life.
How do you even get to that point, like, to figure that out?
I've heard jokes about peanut butter and things like that.
Yeah, well, that's news to me too, man. What kind of world do you live in?
You've heard jokes. They say it in movies. You've heard it. Don't act like you haven't heard it. I've never heard of this. But apparently the dog bit him one time on the penis. But this was all sexual. I mean, he would masturbate during these acts with his dog. Now, one thing that Westley says is that he witnessed a lot of violent fights between his parents. In 1976, Westley was 15 years old when his father attempted suicide following an argument with his mom. And his parents would divorce that same year. So you go back to his diary, because a lot of the information comes out of that. He didn't have a close relationship with his parents. He didn't have a close relationship with his siblings or anybody else for that matter. I don't think he had a lot of friends. And it was around this age of 15 that he started to expose himself in a different way. So he would get on his bike. He would ride around the neighborhood looking for groups of kids, boys, girls, didn't matter. And he would drive by with his junk hanging out of his zipper.
Okay.
And apparently he would yell, "Hey," whatever he had to say to get their attention. He was trying to shock them.
Yeah.
By exposing himself.
Hey, look over here.
Yeah, something like that.
Look what's flopping around.
I chose the word "hey," but
yeah.
But again, it wasn't just the exposing. He was molesting other kids. In his diary, he writes about the fact that he was able to get a large number of kids to go with him. He would expose himself. He would molest them. He molested kids that he babysat. Apparently, he molested the children of a woman that his dad had begun dating after his parents' divorce.
He was just everywhere, wasn't he?
I mean, this was, I'm saying it like it happened every now and then. This was a constant thing. And people were turning him in for this behavior time and time again.
But just slaps on the wrist?
Yeah, well, I mean, he obviously is a minor, but still, this is not normal behavior. But everybody is chalking it up like it's just, hey, he's a kid. He doesn't mean anything. They would tell his parents he needed counseling, he needed help, which he did, but he's not going to get it. Now, years later, his dad would say in an interview with the Oregonian newspaper that he was aware of Westley's behavior, but he looked the other way because in his words, he was a good kid. He never had problems with drugs. He didn't drink. He didn't smoke. He wasn't doing those type of things. He was doing some things that, are way worse. He was arrested for indecent exposure at the age of 15, but the police said, hey, get some counseling, which again, he's not going to get any of that.
No.
And as the years go by, he's going to be arrested many more times for, these type of actions, exposure, inappropriate touching, molestation, all kinds of different things. But again, there's never going to be any type of serious action taken by law enforcement. Now, as he gets older into like age 20, he's an adult now. He's no longer a kid. He starts molesting kids that he doesn't know. He tried to abduct 2 little girls, but they escaped and they reported him to police. I mean, I'm sure through their parents, but he got reported to police. Again, Gibbs, he's 20 years old now and they don't do anything to him. So this pattern starts to emerge, right? He gets arrested, but these judges don't send him to jail for long periods of time. So even when he does some little stretch of time, it's very short. It's always a little bit of time, get treatment, and the fact that he's standing before the judge saying, hey, I'm never going to do this again. And they're believing him. In 1981, Dodd enlisted in the Navy, and he got assigned to a submarine base in Bangor, Washington. Now, the Navy had no knowledge of his juvenile sex offenses, and it was there that he started abusing children who lived on the base. He once offered $50 to some boys to come to a motel room with him for a game of strip poker. And again, he gets reported for this. He gets arrested for this. He even confessed to police that it was his plan to molest these boys. But he gets released. No charges are filed against him. And very shortly after that, he's arrested again for exposing himself to a young boy. Now, he gets discharged from the Navy over that, but no criminal charges are filed. So again, Gibbs, like you said, it's just constant, right? He's not stopping. He's not even slowing down.
Nope.
But where's the roadblock in his way to slow him down, right? He's getting away with everything that he's doing. I think for that one, he spent something like 19 days in jail.
19 days.
I mean, what is that? What kind of deterrent is 19 days? Now, personally, I don't want to spend 19 days in jail, but to me, exposing yourself to a young boy as a 21, 22-year-old man, that's serious behavior that deserves more than 19 days and some counseling. All right, Gibbs, let's take a quick break to talk about Simplisafe. You and I have talked about it before. We love this product. And one of the reasons is that Simplisafe puts an amazing level of detail into everything they do. I think this is what sets them apart from other security companies. The system is designed so well, you'll never notice it. You never have to think about it. It's easy. It's intuitive. There's no contract. Simplisafe works hard every day to earn your business. And they don't settle for the typical. They want to make sure that everything that they put out is top of the line. So they test everything repeatedly, tens of thousands of times. They refine their detection technology. Take a glass break sensor. For example, they've got it to the point where it's so accurate, it can distinguish between a broken plate and a broken window. And the camera, you can't forget about the camera. I love being able to see what's going on at home from my iPhone in seconds. You get 24/7 monitoring with police and fire dispatch at just $15 a month. It's the best around-the-clock protection you can find. So order your Simplisafe security system today at simplisafe.com/TCAT. And if you do, Simplisafe will also donate one to a family in need. That's simplisafe.com/TCAT. simplisafe.com/TCAT. True Crime All the Time is sponsored by BetterHelp. Folks, therapy can feel like a big investment, but let's think about the state of your mind. It's just as important as your physical health. Traditional in-person therapy can cost anywhere from $100 to $250 per session, which adds up really fast. But with BetterHelp Online Therapy, you can save, on average, up to 50% per session. With BetterHelp, you pay a flat fee for weekly sessions, saving you big on cost and time. And you get quality care at a price that makes sense and can help you with anything from anxiety to everyday stress. Your mental health is worth it, and now it's within reach. I've used the BetterHelp service for years. And I love the fact that, I can connect with a therapist in a comfortable spot in my home on my laptop. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. Your well-being is worth it. Visit betterhelp.com/TCAT today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/TCATT. So now we fast forward to May of 1984. Dodd is arrested for molesting a 10-year-old boy in Idaho. Now this time, the judge sentences him to 10 years, which you would think, okay, I'm not even sure that's long enough, but it's a hell of a lot longer than anything anybody else has been giving him. But then the judge turns around and he commutes the sentence to 4 months on one condition, that Dodd attends counseling. Now, later on, the judge is going to say that he was not aware of any of Westley's past history and that he based his decision on the fact that he made a good impression on him, standing in front of him in the courtroom. But how do you go from giving a guy a 10-year sentence to all of a sudden saying, you know what, I'm bringing that down to 4 months.
Yeah.
Go do some counseling. And the fact is, Dodd planned his whole life around finding what he called easy targets. I'm using my air quotes, Gibbs.
I see that.
But this is what he called children. He called children easy targets. This guy's a very sick individual.
Extremely sick.
And obviously it's going to get much worse. He moved into an apartment block specifically based on the fact that this was a block where a lot of families with young children lived. He's not out just cruising around looking for victims. He's basing his housing choices on how many kids live in the area, live in the neighborhood, live on that street. He held odd jobs at times. He worked at fast food restaurants. He worked as a truck driver. But during this whole time, he is repeatedly molesting preschool-aged kids of a neighbor. Preschool. Now, this woman that was his neighbor found out about it, but she didn't want to press charges because she feared that it would be traumatic for her boys. These were 2 boys. Gibbs, I think you and I have talked about that before. The choice that somebody has to make.
Yeah.
Whether it's pressing charges or testifying against somebody, weighing that fear of something versus, could you stop this person from doing something in the future? So we know that he's been molesting kids for quite a number of years, but his sexual fantasies become violent. He writes in his diary about having these fantasies of eating the genitals of his victims, performing experimental surgeries on them. And this is kind of Dahmer-esque. He talks in the diary about wanting to turn victims into zombies that would do, anything that he wanted them to do. It's just like Dahmer.
Yeah, it is.
Except these are kids. His fantasies involve kids. A psychiatrist who evaluated him after one of his many convictions, he was convicted a bunch of times. He just never did any serious time. The psychiatrist diagnosed him as a sexual psychopath. In 1987, he's about 26 years old at this point in time. He tried to lure a young boy into a vacant building, but the boy wouldn't go with him. And instead, told his parents, who alerted police. But again, very minimal punishment. Now, later on, Dodd would say that he had planned to rape and kill this boy, but a charge of attempted kidnapping got reduced to a charge of attempted indecent liberties. And this was despite him being evaluated prior to sentencing, and the report that was made on him called him a threat to the community. Now, it was said that a big reason why this was reduced was that he hadn't actually touched this boy. He hadn't exposed himself. So I guess, Gibbs, they're saying he didn't actually kidnap this boy. He tried to, but they couldn't prove that he actually tried to.
Yeah.
Because he didn't get that far.
Still sick.
It is sick. Because if he could have, again, according to him, he would have, sexually assaulted this boy and killed him.
Yeah.
But what gets me about this one is that unlike some of the other cases, the prosecutors in this case, they were very aware of his past sexual offenses and convictions, and they recommended 5 years in prison. But he got a whopping 118 days. Well, I don't know what he got. That's how much time he spent in jail. And then he got probation. Again, after a promise by Dodd that he would go to treatment. and get counseling. But after he does this 118 days in jail, he moved to Vancouver, Washington, which is just across the river from Portland, Oregon, worked a series of odd jobs. He was a shipping clerk, and he did start to go to therapy, but he didn't go for very long. And he left this therapy and immediately began stalking, targeting children at local parks. So we're up to the fall of 1989. Dodd's in Vancouver, Washington, and he picks out this local park. It's called David Douglas Park, as in his mind, a great place to find potential victims. And he's stalking kids at this park and committing, indecent acts against kids. Now, over the next few years, he would be arrested a number of times for molesting children. But every time he is given a very short jail sentence and some type of court-mandated therapy. I just can't believe at this point, he's not a kid. The guy's almost 30 years old. His past has to follow him, right, Gibbs?
You would think.
I just can't believe that judges aren't looking at this and saying, this guy's incorrigible. He is not going to turn his life around. He keeps doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they're allowing him by letting him do these very short stints in jail. And it's thought, Gibbs, that he had over 50 victims.
Can't even fathom, man.
All below the age of 12 years old. Most of his victims were boys. Now I'm with you. I can't imagine it. And at the same time, it pisses me off.
Yeah.
That not just the fact that he did it, obviously that pisses me off, but that he was allowed to continue, because that's the way it makes me feel. As you do the research, you really get the sense that this guy should have been put away much, much earlier. He shouldn't have been allowed to keep getting out and just to go back to do the same thing, to find another victim time after time. And it would be on September 4th, 1989, Westley Dodd would lure two brothers, 10-year-old William Neer and 11-year-old Cole Neer, to a secluded area, forced them to undress, tied them to a tree, and he sexually assaulted them. But this is when he would commit his first murders, because he stabbed both of them repeatedly with a knife. And he would later say, Gibbs, that as he was doing it, one of the boys was shouting, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Dodd fled the scene, but the boys were discovered soon after that in the park. Cole Neer was dead when he was discovered, and his brother William died on the way to the hospital. So Westley Dodd killed these two brothers, but he's not going to stop, right? He didn't stop with the exposure. He didn't stop with the molestation. Now he's elevated to murder. He's not going to stop there either, because it's just on October 29th that he finds a 4-year-old boy named Lee Isley and his 9-year-old brother Justin at a park in Portland. And he finds Lee playing alone. His brother's not with him right there. And Dodd is able to convince this boy to come with him. And he takes this boy back to his apartment in Vancouver.
So yeah, like Mike said, Dodd takes Lee back to his apartment. He then asks Lee to undress. He ties Lee to his bed, and then unfortunately makes things even worse. He begins to molest him. And during all this, he's taking pictures. He ends up keeping Lee overnight while continuously molesting him. I mean, this guy's just sick. He's just sick. And Dodd is keeping a diary at this point as well. And he is notating everything that he's doing. So he's notating it in his diary. He's taking pictures. I mean, this is just a sick individual. I mean, to a very high level.
Well, and that's why I said in the beginning, Gibbs, he's just pure evil. There's no doubt about it.
No, it's gut wrenching for me. I mean, and the very next morning, when he's all done with his messed up shit that he's doing to this kid, now he's going to go ahead and strangle the boy with a rope. and kills him. But he does it by strangling him and hanging him into the closet. I mean, how messed up is that?
Not only that, but he photographs him in the closet. Now, Dodd is later going to confess to his crimes, and he's going to tell police that he did not originally plan on killing this boy. But in his words, he decided that he had to, because there was no other way to keep him from telling on him about what he had done. Now, he put Lee's nude body in trash bags, threw it in some bushes near Vancouver Lake. He burned the boy's clothing, except for his underwear. He kept that as a souvenir.
Yeah.
Now, they found Lee's body 3 days later, and this sparked a manhunt. As you can only imagine, I mean, this was a 4-year-old boy.
Somebody's kid, man. And what is he doing during this time? Sitting on his ass, keeping a low profile back at his apartment. But what he's really doing, which drives me crazy, is he's sitting there planning what he's going to do next, his next victim, and what he's going to do to that victim. I mean, he's just so jacked up in his head, man.
Well, at the same time, he's collecting all these newspaper articles that he can find on his crimes. And on top of that, he starts to construct a homemade torture rack for his next victim. I said it, Gibbs. He's not going to stop.
No, he's always going to take it to another level, because I don't want to say it's some kind of addiction where you get it and you got to have it again, but you got to have more of it. But it's what it seems like. It's something.
It's something like that.
He can't ever be, he's not satisfied after he does whatever he does, that he's got to go to the extreme on the next one. And then he's got to go to the extreme, another extreme level.
Now, November 13th, 1989, Dodd abducted a 6-year-old boy from the bathroom of a theater in Camas, Washington. But this boy is fighting him. He's crying, and Dodd's trying to carry this boy out of the theater while he's kicking and screaming. And obviously the theater employees are suspicious. They don't know what's going on. But once he gets outside, he changes his mind. It's too much. He lets this boy go, gets in his car, and he drives away. Now the mother comes out, the mother's boyfriend comes out, and they're told that this boy was almost abducted. So the boyfriend goes nuts and heads off in the direction that Dodd was seen leaving. And what happened was Dodd's car broke down, not that far away from the theater. So what the boyfriend does is he goes up to the car and he offers to help Dodd with his car situation. But as soon as Dodd gets out of the car, this guy gets him in the headlock and he manhandles him all the way back to the theater.
Good.
I'm picturing this. I'm cheering for this guy. So they call the police. Now later on, the boyfriend, his name's William Graves, he would be awarded money. Local newspapers gave him $2,000. A radio station gave him $1,000 from, some giveaway that they were already doing. But they said, no, we're going to give it to this guy instead. A local business gave him $500. I mean, this guy was hailed as a hero, the man that stopped the monster. And apparently he was unemployed at the time that this happened, and he got like 8 job offers. So I don't know if this is a good guy or not, Gibbs, but I'm rooting for him.
Yeah.
Because of what he did.
He did something good that day.
So the local police, obviously they're very suspicious of Westley Dodd. And they contact a task force that is working and investigating the kidnapping and murder of the 4-year-old Lee Isley. They question Dodd. He denies any involvement in either Isley's death or, the murders of the Neer brothers. But then they find out that he worked at a factory that was about a mile away from where Lee Isley's body was found. So that raised their suspicion level even more. They hammer him and they eventually get him to confess to all 3 murders. But it wasn't just the fact that he confessed to the murders. It was the way that he confessed. Seasoned investigators, Gibbs, would come out later and say that they got sick listening to the details that Dodd was telling them about what he had done.
Well, I believe that. I mean, I felt sick just being here, going through this. You know, the research.
I get that. The research, the details are bad enough. But what made it even worse is that as Dodd is telling them the story and the details, they said it was like he relished it. He relished in providing these details of how he hurt these children.
It was like somebody telling a story about Christmas morning, but the reverse.
Yeah, it was like he was getting he was reliving
the
moments and getting some kind of sick,
getting off on it.
Yeah, satisfaction, whatever you want to call it. They just couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe the way that he gave them the details. So they got a search warrant for the place where Dodd was living. And once they got inside, they found the torture rack. They found a bunch of newspaper clippings of the crimes. They found the pictures that he had taken.
I can't even imagine.
And they found the underwear that belonged to Lee Isley. But on top of that, they found his diary. And remember, he had been writing down all these sick, gruesome details of everything that he had been doing. But it wasn't just that. Inside the diary, he had been writing about his fantasies of what he wanted to do to future victims, right? We talked about the fact that he had built this torture rack. He planned to incorporate that into a future crime. So he had all these sick plans laid out in this diary. So Dodd was charged with 2 counts of first-degree aggravated murder in the stabbing deaths of Cole and William Neer. He was charged with another count of first-degree aggravated murder in the strangulation death of Lee Isley. And state and federal officials, they worked together on this case to figure out how to prosecute Westley Dodd. And it was decided that he would be charged in state court because federal law had no provision for the death penalty. They wanted this guy to die. And the only way to get that was for the state to charge him. He was also charged with first-degree attempted murder and first-degree attempted kidnapping in the case of the 6-year-old boy at the movie theater. During the trial in Clark County Superior Court, the prosecution said that Westley Dodd had stalked nearly 24 kids before settling on his first 3 victims. They read aloud from his diary. They showed the jury the horrible photos of Lee Isley. So you imagine, Gibbs, what these jurors went through in this trial. I mean, they had to sit and listen to every sort of detail, every act that Dodd committed against these children, as well as all of his fantasies and his plans that he had to hurt more children. This would have been a very tough job in this case specifically to be a juror. And the defense was up against it. You know, they didn't call any witnesses. They didn't present any evidence. They basically stuck to the plan of saying that Dodd was legally insane. I mean, what else could they do, Gibbs? I mean, they had so much evidence mounted up against them.
Right.
I mean, this was an open and shut case, if you could ever call a case open and shut. But what came out was that Westley Dodd wanted the death penalty. They were going after the death penalty against him, and he came out and said he wanted it. He wanted to die. He pleaded guilty, stating that it was part of his plan to keep from killing again. And this is why this case is so strange to me. This is a horrible monster, did horrible things to kids, and he never would have stopped on his own. But once he got caught, he wanted the state to kill him. At least this is what he said, because he didn't he didn't want to hurt any more children, but he knew he would.
What would be your intention if you're forced to live in prison?
Do everything I can to escape, and if necessary, kill prison guards on the way out. And I'll go right back to doing what I did before as soon as I hit the streets.
Which is what?
Kill kids.
Kill and rape kids?
Yes.
So you should be executed for the safety of others?
Yes.
So that's Dodd talking to the judge. He's saying,
you let me out.
I'll kill guards. I'll do whatever I have to do to get out. And when I do get out,
I'm going to do it all again.
I'm going to do all the bad stuff I was doing.
Every reason I'm here, I'm going to go back right to it.
So you better kill me now or you're taking that chance.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that Dodd did was he talked to the media a lot while he was in prison. And he told a newspaper reporter before they actually sentenced him that, he expected to get the death penalty. But he said, I can't go back on the streets again. I'd like to say I'd never do anything like that again, but I can't trust myself. And he didn't offer up any mitigating evidence during the penalty phase, the sentencing, because as he put it, that was an excuse. And he didn't want to make any excuses. And this is what he said. It doesn't really matter why the crimes happened. I should be punished to the full extent of the law, as should all sex offenders and murderers. Even the smallest step forward can make a big difference in your financial future. When you open a Chime checking account, you're one step closer to a better financial future with no maintenance fees, fee-free overdraft up to $200, or getting paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. Making progress has never been easier. I think we've all been in that position where we've had an overdraft. Well, with Chime, you can overdraft up to $200 with no fees. That's amazing. And they have over 50,000 fee-free ATMs. Make progress towards a better financial future with Chime. Open your account in 2 minutes at chime.com/TCAT. That's chime.com/TCATT. Chime feels like progress. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A., members FDIC. Spot me eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Fees apply at out-of-network ATMs. MyPay eligibility requirements apply. Credit limits range from $20 to $500. $2 fee applies to get funds instantly. Crime checking account required. Go to chime.com/disclosures for details. My wife and I do a lot of shopping online, and we always use Rakuten. Rakuten is the smartest way to save money when you shop because you earn cash back at over 3,500 stores. We're talking fashion, beauty, electronics, home essentials, travel, dining, concert tickets, and more. Your favorite stores like Macy's, Nike, Sephora, Dyson, and Lowe's. And that's just to name a few. Pay Rakuten to send them shoppers. And Rakuten then passes on a part of that payment to its members as cashback. Cashback is deposited directly into your PayPal account, or Rakuten can send you a check. You can even maximize your savings by stacking cash back on top of other deals, like store sales and coupons. You're already shopping at your favorite stores. Why not save while you're doing it? It really is a no-brainer. Membership is free, and it's easy to sign up. Get the Rakuten app now and join the 17 million members who are already saving. Cashback rates change daily. See Rakuten.com for details. That's Rakuten. Your cash back really adds up. So Dodd was sentenced to death in 1990 for stabbing to death brothers Cole and William Neer in 1989, as well as for the rape and murder of Lee Isley. And I want to play this interview that Dodd did.
Why do you want to be executed?
I have to be. Because I will kill again. No, I would do it again. I've been molesting kids nonstop since I was 13 years old, over half my life. Anything happened, I can guarantee I'd do it again, and sooner or later I would kill another child. I've done it before, and at the time I liked it.
Dodd also says that if he ever escapes from prison, there is someone in particular that he will be out to kill.
I'm not going to say who, but there is somebody out there. There's a man out there.
There's a man.
Yeah.
Someone related to the case that got you imprisoned in the first place?
Not directly, no.
But it's something that you know that you're going to do, or you plan to do, you want to do.
Yeah.
Did your execution do any good?
I think it would. I think a few child molesters, anyway, are going to think twice before they do anything again.
How do you live with yourself daily?
At times, it's not easy. Like I said, there's times I think about what I've done. I think about some of the things the boys said before they died, and that's real hard to think about.
What do you make of it?
Oh, he's trying to get a little emotional there, but it's too little too late, you know? I mean, he knows what he did. He's sick. He can't stop himself. Like he said, he'll be right back on the street doing it again, so.
Yeah, I believe that. I don't think there's any doubt about that he's being honest about that part.
But I do think, you know, he knows he needs to die because he will try to do everything to get out. So, you know, maybe just go ahead and let him throw his own switch, you know, just let him do it. Get it over with. I mean, I know there's people that hate the death penalty, but this is one time that I don't think anybody would disagree. This guy's got to go. Yeah,
there's always people that are going to disagree no matter what circumstance, but I mean, if there's ever anybody that deserved the death penalty.
Oh, he does.
He does. Unless you're just so staunchly against it. So something really strange happened while Dodd was in prison. He wrote a pamphlet designed for kids. In this pamphlet, he tries to tell young boys and girls how to avoid becoming victims of a pedophile like himself. And apparently, Gibbs, it's written so kids can understand in very simple language. But again, I don't know what to make of that either. How is a guy like this doing something for the good of kids, if he is? Or is he somehow getting some strange thrill out of this as well? I just don't know how a guy that has had so many young victims all of a sudden now is trying to help kids.
Yeah, unless he's trying to get right with the man above.
I don't know.
At a last minute stretch.
You know, on top of that, he cooperated with some of the families of his victims in a lawsuit against some of the municipalities and the entities that let him get away with so many things. And he's quoted as saying, "I think state agencies should be held accountable for their incompetence. If you add up all the prison time I was given, but never made to serve, I'd be in prison until 2026. And those boys would still be alive."
Well, I mean, we talk about this all the time, about the short sentences.
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
And I know it's something that you and I get riled up about, but I don't think he's wrong about that. Now, he's still the one that killed them.
Yeah. I mean, no doubt if he was in prison, he couldn't do what he did, you know, because he's locked up. But we don't know. He says that, but, you know, he said earlier that he would try to escape. So who says he wouldn't try to escape back then when they put him away for the total length of time?
Oh, I'm sure he would have.
Sure he would have. And he would have killed and molested and all the other stuff.
If he could have escaped.
Yeah, it can be done. I've seen an escape plan.
I know you have because you've talked about it.
Yeah.
On more than one occasion.
I know.
For a movie that I don't think is very good, you seem to talk about it a lot.
Now, how could you say it's not a very good movie?
Because I don't think it is.
It's not a bad movie. It's entertaining.
Maybe. I think that's a stretch. For you, I think you're easily entertained.
I can be sometimes.
I think that's really what it comes down to. You know, 1990, when he was sentenced, is when some of the sex offender laws started to get tougher. Some of the registrations started to get more, what's the word, Gibbs? Restrictive, or, you know, to be strengthened, bolstered.
Bolstered, yeah.
You like that word, bolstered?
I got some bolster.
I don't know. That's not how you use it.
That's how I'm using it right now. Bolstered.
And there was some legislation that allowed states to lock up repeat offenders even after they had served their time on the grounds that they posed a high risk of attacking again. So it was some type of legislation that let states keep convicted sex offenders in jail for longer periods of time that they felt posed a significant risk to the community. And I'm not saying all of this was directly related to Westley Dodd, but a lot of it started happening around, the time that he was sentenced. And then you get to his execution. And we always talk about, how long it takes to execute somebody and what the right amount of time is, right? With the false confessions and people getting exonerated with DNA and things like that. It took less than 4 years from the time that he committed the murders to the time that he was executed. Now, number one, he refused to make any appeals. He kept telling everybody that would listen in the legal system that he would kill again, as you heard in some of the interviews. And he told judge after judge that, if I'm not executed and I do escape, I will kill and rape again, and I'll enjoy every minute of it. Now, you talked about the death penalty, Gibbs, and we know there are people that are opposed to it. There were people that were opposed to it in this case as well. There were anti-death penalty groups who were fighting to save the life of Westley Dodd. That's what they believed in. But he came out and said that they should be charged as co-conspirators in his next crime. Meaning, if he wasn't executed and he did escape and he did kill somebody, it would be on their hands. Now, I don't agree with that, but that's those were his words.
Right.
So by Washington state law, Dodd had a choice between two methods for his execution. He could choose lethal injection or he could choose hanging. And he chose hanging. And like we said, nobody had been hanged in the United States at this point in like 28 years, I think we said. In an interview, he told a reporter that he chose that method because that's the way that Lee Isley died. Again, I don't know what I believe of the things that come out of his mouth, but that's what he said. His execution was witnessed by 12 members of the media, prison officials. There were representatives of families of the 3 victims. His last meal was salmon and potatoes. And his last words, as reported by some of the media that were there, were, I was once asked by somebody, I don't remember who, if there was any way sex offenders could be stopped. I said no. I was wrong. I was wrong when I said there was no hope, no peace. There is hope, there is peace. I found both in the Lord, Jesus Christ. Look to the Lord and you will find peace. Dodd was hanged at 12:05 a.m. on January 5th, 1993 at Washington State Penitentiary in Walla Walla. He was pronounced dead by the prison doctor and his body was taken to Seattle for autopsy. The medical examiner found that Dodd had died quickly, probably with little pain. I'd been okay if there was a little bit more pain. There's a lot of people outside the prison when Dodd was executed. So apparently there were about 150 people cheering after his death was announced.
Letting fireworks off and everything, man.
Yep, fireworks, waving sparklers. There was another group of about 50 people that opposed the death penalty, and they had a candlelight vigil. They prayed while he was put to death, but ultimately Dodd was cremated and his ashes were given to his family.
All right.
And that's the end of Westley Dodd.
Good.
Good. It's a tough one.
Was a tough one.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy was a monster. He did some horrific things. I just go back to the fact, Gibbs, that I do feel like in some of these instances, the system didn't work. I'm not saying in every instance. I'm sure there was times where they couldn't give him that much or as much as they wanted to or whatever it was. But you go back to the fact he was given a 10-year sentence at one point.
Yeah.
Ended up doing 4 months.
Well, like you said, if he would have got full everything, he would have been in prison to 2026 back then,
Well, it just tells you how much time he got out of.
Yeah.
Because you figure he died in 1993. Now, nobody ever does the maximum in all those little sentences, but he would have done considerable time. It still doesn't mean he wouldn't have gotten out and done something horrible.
But maybe less victims would have been had.
Maybe. I don't know. And maybe I'm asking too much from the system. But that's it. That is the case of Westley Allan Dodd. Got some voicemails, Gibbs. I think if we ever needed them, we need them now.
Let's do it.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Emily from Chicago, Illinois. And I am calling to, well, first let's apologize for how awkward my first message was. And secondly, we got to talk about something important, and that is polygraphs. And why polygraphs are absolute bullshit. Because people want to call them lie detectors, but there is no machine, there's no process on earth that can tell if you're lying based on hooking you up to some machine. It doesn't exist. What polygraphs actually measure is basically your vital signs. Your heart rate, your breathing, how much you sweat, because the theory is if you're nervous and you're sweating, shaking, you're not at a normal, calm baseline, you're lying. So that's how you get all these spouses that don't pass polygraphs and how you get all these psychopaths that do pass polygraphs. It's an emotion machine. It's not a lie detector. They don't help anybody. It's just one of those CSI tools that people look for because they believe in it, but it's Hollywood magic. So I hope this was educational for you, and I hope you guys have a fantastic week. Thank you for everything you do on the podcast. Keeps me super entertained as I drive everywhere. That's all I had for you guys today. So thank you so much. Keep up the good work and keep your own time ticking.
All right. Thanks for the voicemail. We appreciate it. Gibbs, you think you could beat a polygraph?
I know the best polygraph out there, lie detector person, would be a mom. Bring your mom in. Moms know. They know when you're lying.
Moms do.
Yeah.
It's hard to get past the mom, but do you think you yourself could beat one?
I have. I mean, could I?
I don't think I could.
I could.
I sometimes have trouble controlling my emotions.
Yeah.
Controlling my nerves.
Just use it in reverse.
I'll break out in like a flop sweat sometimes when I get put in a tough situation.
Use it in reverse, man.
Use it in reverse.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means.
Then you can't beat it. If you don't know what that means, you won't ever beat it.
Hopefully I'll never be in that position, but
Hey, Mike and Gibby, this is Colleen from Salt Lake City, Utah. I listen to your podcast. I love you guys. I'm currently listening to episode 86 on True Crime all the time, and just died laughing when when Mike and Gibby started talking about Tanya Dancer. Don't feel so bad, buddy. I thought it was Gladys Day in the pit. So keep up the good work, you guys, and keep your own time ticking. Bye-bye.
we got a lot of mileage out of that Tanya Dancer.
Ah, man. What can I say?
Not much, really.
I really can't at this point.
Hey, Mike and Gibby, this is Jennifer from Texas. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and I work with the criminally insane. I listen to your podcast every day. I have a rather long drive. I commute about 4 hours a day, so I listen to you guys nonstop. I love listening to you. It's like listening to two of my buddies. Except none of my buddies want to talk about what I like to talk about. So it's truly fun to listen to you guys, and I get your humor, and I laugh out loud, and I'm sure people think, that lady's nuts when they see me laughing in the car. Anyway, thank you so much for such a great podcast. Please keep it going, and like you say, keep your own time ticking. Bye.
All right. That was a great voicemail.
It was.
We appreciate that.
She's got a tough job, man.
She does. She does. Now, she touched on the humor.
Right.
This episode, very tough.
Yeah, it was kind of hard for me to be too funny.
To
hard
find,
for me to be funny.
Yeah,
you know?
find points of levity, and it was just such a subject matter was not one that you could find too many places, right, to interject.
Mm-mm.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Shelby from Dayton, Ohio. I was listening to the BTK Part 2 when Gibby had actually mentioned that he lived in Huber and the guy across the street had murdered his family, and I immediately had to pull over the car and call your voicemail because I lived on that same street, and I knew that family because I was friends with the daughter. So it was so weird for me to be like driving down the street and listen to this very popular podcast people talk about, and I like apparently lived on the same street as Gibby. So that is like my connection to you guys, besides the fact that I also lived in Dayton, Ohio, and I live in Lexington. But you guys totally filled the void when I had to drive to and from multiple times for interviews, and I just love Mike's voice. Like, there's something so soothing about it. So I love you guys, and keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great things. So stay safe and keep your own time ticking. Bye.
You do have a soothing voice.
It's very soothing, I guess. I don't know.
Super soothing.
My wife doesn't think so.
She says my voice is soothing.
Does she? In those small moments
small moments when I say, can I have another helping of that lasagna there, please? Thank you very much.
No, but how about that? You guys probably lived on the same street.
Just down the road.
You're just lucky that she didn't have some kind of embarrassing story.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, Gibby was that one that was always out in his really short shorts, tube socks, and a half crop shirt cutting his grass.
And one day he bent over and split his pants.
Because he needed some husky shorts, but he didn't have them on.
All right. That's funny, though. But now she lives in Lexington.
Yeah.
You know, obviously one of my favorite places.
Probably a UK fan.
I don't know. I don't think I don't know how long she's lived there, but if she's not now, I was going to say.
They brainwash it pretty fast.
You get brainwashed pretty fast down there for sure. All right, Gibbs, let's dip into the mailbag real quick.
Yeah.
We had Todd Hoover from Indiana sent me a bunch of Harley chips.
Yeah, he did.
He sent you a die.
I do. I got a die. Wait a minute. I didn't like the way that sounded.
No, that sounded funny. You don't have to die.
No, I don't want to die. Don't let me die. But I got a dice.
A dice?
Yeah.
And he also sent us some beef jerky.
He did, man. That was pretty good.
And you and I were talking about it before the show.
We like jerky.
We like beef jerky.
Yeah. I like beef jerky. You just like jerky.
I like beef jerky. If anybody's thinking about, man, you know, I'd like to send something, but I don't want to send a chip. Hey, beef jerky always works from your neck of the woods. Yeah. We like to try it from different places.
You got it.
And then Pete McRae from what I believe is Cockatoo, Australia.
Cockatoo.
Sent Gibby a book of Aussisms.
Boy, you did.
Australian sayings.
That's good stuff, mate.
He's hoping that Gibby can. It's not going to improve the accent. Has nothing to do with that.
But I'll still read it, man.
But that was Jamaican.
It's still an island, man.
But I think what he's hoping is that as you're doing the Australian accent, you're going to have some actual like Aussie phrases that you can use, so you can stop saying "mon"
and shrimp on the Barbie,
like you're drinking a Red Stripe.
Yeah, nothing wrong with Red Stripe.
Do what?
Nothing wrong with a Red Stripe.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. You're just in the wrong damn country. Is what I'm telling you.
Shift over a little bit, up or down the road.
Up, down the road.
Yeah.
You always say that, down the road. All right. But we love it. We appreciate it.
It was great.
Appreciate everyone for listening. We always do.
Make sure, if you haven't done so, go out to our website, sign up for Patreon, and go hear the first ever TCAT Patreon episode.
First of many.
First of many to come.
All right. That is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
In the early hours of December 4th, 2024, CEO Brian Thompson stepped out onto the streets of Midtown Manhattan.
This assailant pulls out a weapon and starts firing at him.
We're talking about the CEO of the biggest private health insurance corporation in the world.
and the suspect,
he has been identified as Luigi Nicholas Mangione,
became one of the most divisive figures in modern criminal history.
It was targeted, premeditated, and meant to sow terror.
I'm Jesse Weber, host of Luigi, produced by Law and Crime and Twist. This is more than a true crime investigation. We explore a uniquely American moment that could change the country forever.
He's awoken the people to a true issue.
Finally, maybe this would lead rich and powerful people to acknowledge the barbaric nature of our healthcare system.
Listen to Law and Crime's Luigi exclusively on Wondery Plus. You can join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts.